And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Talking Business, our interview series talking with leaders in the fields of digital marketing, banking, insurance, customer service, and business education, all to highlight our team at CBSI. We provide insurance-backed benefit programs to payments and credit card companies around the country. And it's also our 50th year that we are celebrating in the leadership of our founder, Bob Conti. Yeah, we're very glad to have with us today an expert in community banking and marketing and logistics and planning, and that is Bruce Clapp. Works extensively with community banks. Bruce, how are you today?
I'm very well, Ken. How about yourself today?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's cold, but a bright sunny day here in White Plains. And Bruce, I know we've been out on both out on the banking meeting circuit this fall. I got a chance to go to some of the New York State meetings held by John Wachowski. Bruce, tell us about where you've been and some of the things that you've been hearing.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, it's definitely winter is quickly approaching, and that means that the seasons have changed, and the same thing happens to our bank clients out there, and especially right now with the regulatory environment continuing to kind of clamp down and be onerous in many different facets. It's creating an ongoing challenge for our institutions. But the biggest thing we're seeing right now is with the rate environment and how it's impacting how our clients in those industry are operating. We've had a dramatic shift from lending focus to a deposit focus, and something that our clients really haven't seen for pretty close to a decade, with really the need and desire to really go after and be competitive in the deposit acquisition space. So it's a unique time. A lot of marketers that we're interacting with just haven't had this challenge before them. So it is certainly unique. Because you have the advent not only of the rate environment where the rates are going up, things are constantly repricing, so it's a balancing act between how are we pricing everything and how can we still activate engagement with our customers and the like. And then you have the impact of fintech and other things like that, which make a lot of services that you might have as a fundamental piece, whether it's a checking account or an auto loan, something a lot more friction-free, which is really probably the biggest challenge that our community bank brethren are facing right now. Is clearly, as we talked prior to our session here, the pandemic caused a lot of institutions to kind of rethink very quickly, almost overnight, how do they go to market and how can they create engagement and levels of service for their customers when we're not meeting them in person. So they adopted DocuSign and other things like that to expedite still being able to close loans and open up new accounts and things like that without being in person, doing things at a distance. But that mindset of really trying to figure out how can we adopt new services and new ways of doing business was really an imperative for our industry. But fast forward to 2.5 years later, people are kind of falling back into what they've always done. And that's why we're out telling the story of our clients to really kind of figure out how can you engage your customers where they are at. And a lot of them means that they're home now because they're working remote. That whole dynamic of going to work has changed for a lot of different people. So their buying behaviors have changed. A lot more web surfing than ever before. A lot more, deliver services to me. One of the I'll call it a great things that came out of the pandemic is the ability to have almost anything that you desire, whether it is a drink like an alcoholic beer or something like that delivered to your home, or food, of course, and other things. So the effort expended to be able to do the things and get the things you want has been shortened. And so bankers have to learn kind of how do I follow that same path and follow some of the examples of some of our fintech. I'll call them competitors, but really they are co-opetition, because they're ones that are really looking to make our banking industry better, faster, stronger. And those three words are really critical, because that is really what the consumer is looking for. They're looking for a better experience, looking for faster acquisition, less kind of turns and navigations to get where I want to go. And then ultimately they want to have an experience that is not only meets their needs, but is financially viable.
Yeah, fintechs are a big topic. We heard Kevin Twiddle from the ICBA speaking to the New York State bankers in September, and he really was a strong advocate for using fintechs. We've also talked to Wayne Miller, who until a couple of weeks ago was running the Venture Center out of Little Rock, developing fintechs with the participation of literally hundreds of community banks who recently joined the ICBA and for their efforts. Where do you see the fit with fintechs? When I look at community bankers, talk to them, I'm not sure they're sure, what they need and what can help them.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of misunderstanding, I believe, about what really a fintech is. And that's a common term that gets thrown around a lot. It has a rather ubiquitous meaning. So my definition is the ability for technology to provide a frictionless experience. And a lot of times where you see it start is in the lending experience, because lending is probably the most portable service and product that the consumer has. And you can quickly get a loan from really anyone at 11 o'clock at night. So it's a very portable account. So that was the kind of the first place that people chose to attack in financial services, because it's one you could really get some pretty quick traction with. But what we're seeing a lot now is a lot of community banks are working with fintechs and solving an overall challenge. Because one of the things that community banks have is they have the relationship in the community, they have the relationship with the customer that the fintechs don't have. So if you provide an opportunity for those two things to meet, where you have the relationship and the technology for a frictionless experience, those two things come together, that's when some magic happens. And been some great examples of that coming out of Oklahoma, with some unique stories there, as well as across the country. And a lot of opportunities exist for a community bank to really say, hey, we want to get better, faster, stronger, and how can we solve this? And a lot of people get stuck in, where do I start? And I don't have the resources, I don't have the capital to do some of the things that might be required. But really, the capital you bring as a community bank is that customer relationship. And we need to be able to leverage off of that and say, hey, we have the opportunity to really provide a unique opportunity for this group of people. Who wants to help us to do that? And that's where fintechs can kind of help and settle in. And one of the things you got to remind, though, or got to remind ourselves is you almost have two diametrically opposed forces coming together. You have a nimble fintech that is technologically oriented and tries to make fast decisions and make unique value propositions. And then you have a financial institution that is kind of stuck in basically selling money. So we have to be able to think a little differently, think like each other, to be able to come together and really form something that's going to be positive for the consumer at the end of the day.
Yeah, fintechs described to me as kind of being in two categories: one that help internal operations be more effective, and the other being those that are customer facing, and some of those being features that can be offered. Are there any particular ones that stand out and kind of as a feature that can be added onto a community bank platform?
Well, probably the shining example, at least for me, that has really done it right is nCino. nCino was a startup, back 7 or 8 years ago, and has really transformed themselves and latched on to a lot of community banks around the country. And they provide a platform that does exactly the two things that you just mentioned, makes it more efficient for the bank to be able to operate and to be able to deliver the services that the consumer needs. And then from a business and consumer perspective, it provides a frictionless experience. So that's a great combination of services that really does attack the two main reasons why you're going to adopt technology. And a lot of times people say, hey, technology, we want to do that because it's going to make us better, faster, stronger, and they get so caught up in the operations of it that they kind of lose some of that energy. And we have to keep our kind of eye on the prize, which is, again, trying to make us more efficient on the inside and less friction on the outside. So if we can do those two things, that's really where the marriage between community banking and fintechs is the happiest. And nCino is a great example of that.
I'll have to look them up. One of the things that came out of, I'd say, the meeting I was at with the New York State community bankers was the bread and butter is still serving commercial accounts. the regional large companies in their area, and also all the small businesses there with making loans to them, supporting commercial banking. What are some of the areas that you see helping community banks serve their large to small business clientele?
Well, I'll tell you, I use one local bank client that we have here in Ohio as an example, and they are in a really relatively rural area that they service. So they have, we call those legacy markets, and they have been able to very successfully court and provide services to municipalities. So that is a rather unique opportunity to provide both deposit services, cash management services. And then when you have those two things coming into the bank, then you can turn around and leverage those liabilities into assets for other small businesses in the community. So it's an efficient model because a lot of municipalities have some pretty significant balances. They're looking to park and get as good as return as we can get from that. And if we can turn that service into a lending opportunity for a small business, then it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And one of the key metrics of any community bank is monetary velocity. And that's one of the key benefits of a community bank is when they take in deposits and they're able to lend that dollars right back out into the community, it creates velocity for those dollars. And that's how a community grows and fosters and continues to be sustainable and successful. And it creates opportunities for small businesses to grow, for larger businesses to add services, and for the municipalities to benefit from the taxation and those kind of things of that business activity. So all of these things become self-fulfilling. They become feeders into each other, and it's a successful kind of business model.
Very good. Now, what do you see for community banks serving individual customers, consumers with checking accounts, credit card products, which we're very involved with supporting? And obviously, they're having to compete with the big banks and the resources they have. Some use some of the processing companies that can basically emulate what a big bank is offering. What do you suggest to community banks on serving their individual consumer customers?
Well, I think there's a couple key here. One is, banks, community banks have always talked about the share of wallet, and the share of wallet is a critical component to making sure that you are taking care of all their needs and really being a full service provider. And that's the lending needs, the deposit needs, the investing needs, and the access needs to be able to move that money around to take care of living your life. So that's a fundamental need that every community bank needs to focus on. But taking that next step forward says, okay, how can we do that very efficiently? And one of the challenges a lot of community banks have is because they don't have the wherewithal to be able to create their own software to meet their unique needs. They have to go to kind of out of the box core providers, and those out of the box core providers have some benefits and some challenges. The benefits are they can provide services and techniques and tools that you couldn't afford on your own because of the buying power from all these institutions come together. But the challenge of that is you have to have what everyone else has also. So that's one of the challenges of core providers, and there are some unique open source and cloud-based core providers that are starting to change that game a little bit, a lot more nimble, and be able to provide some services to those community banks that kind of get them out of the big national core providers and give them a little bit more flexibility in meeting the needs of their local market and what their balance sheet is really requiring. So that's one big challenge our community banks are facing. They're trying to solve for to enable themselves to provide the services that they want and the services their community and their small business and the retail consumers need.
And we're coming out of the pandemic. Travel is up, back. But some ominous storm clouds, on the horizon for 2023, with energy prices and interest rates going up, and the Fed doing what it's doing. What are you talking to your banks about preparing for next year?
Well, a couple very specific things. One is just making sure we can weather the storm, because As I talked about the economic environment, there's a lot of repricing going on the deposit side as well as the lending side. So ALCO becomes a critical component, being able to manage that transition in a rising rate environment. The second thing is making sure that we can deliver the experience that our customers want on the small business side, the consumer side, and the lending side. Because that's what's going to keep us going. If we can continue to deliver that experience, our customers are going to keep coming back. People constantly have financial needs that are evolving. And the last thing is we have to become as efficient as we possibly can in delivering those services, because the time in the day where we could always count on people walking in the branches and opening up accounts and things like that is fallen by the wayside. So we have to be able to be where our consumers are, whether it's a small business consumer or retail consumer, and that means the digital space. That doesn't just mean you have a Facebook page and you post nice pictures. It means you have an aggressive strategy to be where our consumers are and where their financial needs reside. And that is a key strategy that will continue to grow in importance in the strategic focus for our community banks, as well as the actual tactical outcomes that they must deliver in their marketplace.
Well, Bruce, solid advice. And also a little bit, tell our audience a little bit about the services that you provide your banks.
Yeah, well, at MarketMatch, we have been around for 20 years. So we have seen many things come and go, a lot of economic challenges, a lot of competitive challenges, et cetera. And we've been able to ourselves weather the storm on behalf of our clients, doing three specific things. The first one is providing focus for our clients and helping them to understand and do the things that are imperative for their particular organization. The second thing is developing momentum. So it is putting that strategy to action and putting plans behind it. They're going to move the needle internally for the staff, externally for the customer in the marketplace. And the last thing is guaranteeing results and making sure that what we do from a strategic and tactical execution is actually delivering upon what our community bank client really needs. So that's the hallmark of what we do. We do everything in the marketing and sales development space for specifically community banks and credit unions nationally. And we have fun doing it every day.
Absolutely. Bruce Clapp, good to see you. This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Talking Business. And we're based in Harrison, New York. We provide consumer benefit programs to the banking and payments industry. And great to see you. Thank you for watching and have a great day.